It was supposed to be just another stormy night on the edge of the world. But when the relief ship finally reached the Flannan Isles, something was terribly wrong. The lighthouse door was wide open. The table was set for dinner. A single chair was knocked over, as if someone had stood up in a panic. 3 keepers. Gone. No bodies. No footprints. No signs of a struggle. Only silence. And the endless roar of the Atlantic Ocean. For more than a century, investigators have searched for answers. A rogue wave? A secret fight? Madness? A sea creature? Or something far more impossible? Tonight, we revisit the most chilling disappearance in lighthouse history. A mystery so strange, it was never meant to be solved. For centuries, the Flannan Isles have stood like broken teeth against the North Atlantic, isolated, wind-beaten, and endlessly punished by the sea. There are no villages here, no farms, no safe shores. Only jagged cliffs, howling winds, and waves as tall as houses crashing into black stone. It is the kind of place sailors feared, and storytellers loved. A place that felt older than time itself. The small chain of islands, barely more than barren rock, lies 20 miles west of Scotland. Nothing grows here except stubborn patches of grass. Nothing moves except seabirds. And the storms. The isolation was so absolute that the islands were given a grim nickname by locals, the edge of the world. And yet, in the late 1800s, Britain decided that even this lonely corner of the sea needed guardians. So in 1899, after years of construction under brutal conditions, the Flannan Isles Lighthouse was finally completed. It rose 75 feet above the stone, its beacon built to guide ships away from the rocks and save countless lives. But the price of that safety was high, because someone had to live here. Someone had to stay behind, cut off from society, for weeks at a time. Only the hardiest men accepted the role, lighthouse keepers. Their duty was simple, yet unforgiving. Maintain the light. Keep the logbook. Survive the storms. And above all, never let the flame die. For the keepers, routine was everything. Wake at dawn. Inspect the tower. Oil the machinery. Record the weather. Watch the waves. Hour after hour, day after day, with no sound but the wind screaming outside. Communication with the mainland was nearly impossible. There was no radio, no telegraph, no way to call for help. Relief crews arrived only every few weeks, when the sea allowed it. The men stationed there often described the island as a place that squeezes the mind, a place where silence becomes a second voice. And shadows start to feel alive. In December of 1900, the assigned keepers were 3 men, Thomas Marshall, James Ducat, and Donald MacArthur. Experienced, disciplined, and respected. They had weathered countless storms before, and knew how cruel the Atlantic could be. But nothing in their training prepared them for what was coming. The final logbook entries gave no warning, only the ordinary rituals of lighthouse life. Wind in the west. Sea rough. Repairs completed. There was no hint of fear, no sign of argument, no clue that anything was wrong. By all accounts, the 3 men were calm. And the lighthouse stood strong. But as a vicious winter storm approached, something changed. Something subtle at first. Then terrifying. The barometer dropped rapidly. Waves rose higher than anyone had ever recorded. Locals on the mainland watched the sky turn the color of lead. They later said it felt as if the sea itself was preparing to swallow the islands whole. And somewhere out there, in the fog, the rain, and the deafening roar, 3 men continued their lonely watch. A storm bearing down on them. A lighthouse shaking under the force of nature. And a mystery waiting to be born. This was the last time anyone would ever know their exact fate. Because after this moment, the Flannan Isles fell silent. On December 26, 1900, after weeks of violent storms, the relief vessel Hesperus finally cut through the grey Atlantic, pushing toward the Flannan Isles. Captain James Harvey stood on deck, expecting to see the usual sight, 3 keepers waiting on the landing platform, ready to assist with docking. It was tradition. It was routine. It had never been broken. But as the lighthouse emerged from the mist, something was off. No figures. No movement. No welcoming signal. The platform was empty. At first, the crew blamed the weather. Perhaps the men were inside, taking shelter from the wind. But the sea that morning was calm. Eerily calm. Too calm for the silence that greeted them. The captain ordered the horn to be sounded, Once, twice, 3 times. The echoes rolled across the cliffs and faded into nothing. Not a single answer came from the lighthouse. Joseph Moore, one of the relief keepers, was the first to step onto the island. He later said the moment he set foot on the rock, he felt an immediate chill, not from the cold, but from the emptiness. There were no footprints in the soil. No tools left outside. No sign of life. Only the wind whispering through the grass. He climbed the steep path toward the lighthouse, heart pounding as a strange dread settled over him. The front gate was shut. The door to the living quarters was closed. Everything looked normal. Too normal. But when he opened the door, the illusion shattered. Inside, the first thing he noticed was the silence, thick, heavy, unnatural. Then the details began to emerge. A clock on the wall had stopped. Frozen at a time no one could explain. Coats were missing from their hooks, 2 of them, but not 3. Oilskins used for storm weather were gone as well. Yet the beds were neatly made, untouched since morning. A half-eaten meal sat on the table. A chair lay on its side, as if someone had stood up in a hurry. Or been startled. The kitchen fire had long since burned out. But the logs still showed signs of recent use. Whatever happened, had happened quickly. As Moore moved deeper into the quarters, he felt a sensation he struggled to describe, like walking into a moment suspended in time. A home abandoned suddenly, not gradually. Tools were arranged with care on the workbench. A box of supplies was left open. The logbook entries ended abruptly. The last line simply read, "Storm ended. Sea calm. God is over all." Outside, the search widened. The western landing, exposed to the waves, showed signs of damage. Ropes were scattered. Iron railings were bent. A storage box had been smashed open by the sea. But none of this explained the disappearance of 3 experienced men. Not one body. Not one clue showing where they went. The crew searched every inch of the island, calling out the names of the keepers. Their voices bounced off the cliffs and vanished into the wind. They checked the cliffs, the grass channels, the higher ridges. But no footprints led anywhere. No tools were missing. No boats had been launched. It was as if the men had walked out of existence. When night fell, the truth began to sink in. Something unprecedented had occurred here. Something that left no witnesses, no evidence, no sound. Only questions. And so, for the first time in the lighthouse's history, a telegram was sent to the mainland. Its message was chilling in its simplicity. 3 keepers missing. Situation serious. Search unsuccessful. But neither the captain, nor the relief crew, nor the investigators who would soon descend on the island, had any idea that the mystery they had just uncovered would haunt the next century. In the days that followed the discovery, investigators, sailors, and lighthouse officials attempted to piece together the final moments of the 3 missing men. What could have pulled them away from their duties? What force could take them without leaving behind a single trace? The theories began immediately, each one stranger than the last. The first explanation was the simplest: a storm. A sudden wave, rising out of the Atlantic like a wall of water, could have struck the western landing with deadly force. The damaged railings and scattered ropes supported this idea. Perhaps 2 keepers went out to secure equipment during the storm, and the 3rd ran to help them when they didn't return. A tragic chain reaction. But this theory raised questions. These men were trained to survive storms far worse than the one recorded. They knew the dangers of the western cliffs. They followed strict protocols. And even if one fell, would all 3 abandon the safety of the lighthouse at the same moment? There was no clear answer. Another theory emerged from the official logs: a psychological breakdown. Isolation, silence, and the pressure of constant storms could strain even the strongest minds. Some believed one of the men, perhaps MacArthur, known for his fiery temper, experienced a violent outburst. A fight could have broken out, leading all 3 to perish near the cliffs. But there were no signs of struggle. No blood. No overturned furniture. Nothing to support a confrontation. Then came the theory of escape, that the men attempted to flee the island, desperate for freedom from their endless confinement. But the island's small boat was intact. Supplies were untouched. And the beds had been made as if the day's routine had only just begun. Nothing suggested a planned departure. More unusual explanations gained popularity in the newspapers. Some claimed the men were taken by pirates, though no ships had been seen in the area. Others whispered about a sea monster, a creature pulled from old Celtic myths. The lighthouse's reputation for strange lights and eerie sounds fueled such tales. Then came the most unsettling theory of all, something supernatural. Locals believed the islands were inhabited by spirits, guardians of the cliffs who punished those who disturbed their land. Some said the men were taken by forces beyond understanding, swallowed by the fog that rolled in like a living thing. But perhaps the most intriguing theory came from a government inspector who visited the site weeks later. He proposed that the damage to the western landing showed signs of not one wave, but multiple, each more powerful than the last. He believed the man had been overwhelmed by a rare phenomenon known as a freak wave, capable of rising over 100 feet, taller than the lighthouse itself. In those final moments, they may have been fighting to secure the landing when the ocean claimed them. Yet even this explanation leaves a chilling gap. Why were there no footprints? Why did the logbook end so abruptly? Why was the door locked from the inside? Yet the men were gone? Every theory dies at the same point, the lack of evidence. The island kept its secret. The sea revealed nothing. And the lighthouse, normally a beacon of clarity, offered only silence. More than a century has passed, and still, each possible answer collapses under its own weight. Natural disaster, human error, violence, madness, myth. None can fully explain how 3 men vanished without a trace. And so the mystery deepened, becoming one of the most enduring unsolved disappearances in maritime history. After decades of speculation, re-examination, and modern scientific studies, one theory stands above all others, not because it is dramatic, but because it fits the cold, unforgiving nature of the North Atlantic better than anything else. It begins not with madness, or violence, or myth, but with a simple detail found in the damaged western landing. When engineers analyzed the remains of the broken railings and bent metal hooks, they discovered marks consistent with extreme pressure far greater than any ordinary wave could produce. But these weren't the signature of a single impact. There were 3 distinct damage patterns, each at a different height, suggesting the area had been struck multiple times by surges of water powerful enough to tear steel from stone. This aligns with a phenomenon that was hardly understood in 1900, freak waves, massive walls of water that appear without warning, capable of swallowing ship's hull. Modern measurements show that the region around the Flannan Isles is one of the most active freak wave zones in the world. Now imagine the scene. The storm had recently passed. The sea was calmer, but unstable. Water pooled around the western cliffs. The keepers noticed the storage box smashed open, ropes loosened, and equipment scattered. Protocol required them to inspect and secure the area. 2 men, likely Ducat and Marshall, put on their heavy oilskins and went out first. The third, MacArthur, remained inside, his coat still hanging on the wall, a detail investigators always found striking. It suggests he stayed only long enough to monitor the others, or to finish something abruptly interrupted. Outside, the first wave struck, violent, unexpected, but survivable. The men may have shouted for assistance. The second wave followed almost immediately, stronger, sweeping across the landing with devastating force. Tools, ladders, and ropes were ripped from their places. The keepers held on, but barely. Inside the lighthouse, MacArthur heard the crash. Perhaps he saw the water rising, or the men struggling. With no time to think and no coat to protect him, he rushed out, leaving the chair overturned, the door unlocked, and the routine of daily life frozen mid-moment. That was when the third wave hit. Larger than the others, driven by the chaotic aftermath of the storm, it exploded over the landing with enough force to lift a grown man and pull him into the sea. The 3 keepers, exhausted and unprepared for a surge of this magnitude, never stood a chance. In seconds, they were torn from the rocks and dragged into waters colder than ice. The Atlantic is merciless. Bodies caught in these currents are rarely recovered. The sea buries its dead without returning them. This explanation accounts for everything: the missing coats, the damaged landing, the paused clock, the sudden interruption of a meal, the lack of footprints, and the absence of struggle. It paints a picture not of mystery or malice, but of duty. 3 men doing their job. 3 men responding to danger. 3 men overtaken by a force far beyond human strength. It is the most logical, the most supported, and the most human theory. But even now, it does not erase the haunting reality: no witness survived, and no trace of the keepers was ever found. For more than a century, the Flannan Isles have remained silent. The lighthouse still stands. The waves still crash. And the story of the three keepers lives on, not as a puzzle waiting to be solved, but as a reminder of the thin line between safety and oblivion. Between light and darkness. Between the world we know, and the one the sea keeps for itself. More than 100 years have passed since the three keepers vanished from the Flannan Isles. Yet the lighthouse still burns through the night, its beams sweeping across the empty sea, quiet, solemn, eternal. Today, ships pass by safely, unaware of the story hidden beneath that light. A story of duty. Of isolation. Of three men who kept watch at the edge of the world. They faced the storms so others would not. They braved the darkness so strangers they would never meet could return home. And perhaps that is why their disappearance continues to haunt us. Not because it cannot be explained, but because it reminds us how fragile we are against the forces of nature. How quickly the sea can erase even the strongest among us. No final message was ever found. No remains were ever recovered. Their names, Ducat, Marshall, MacArthur, are carved only in the memory of this lonely rock, where the wind never stops and the waves never sleep. Some mysteries refuse to fade. They live on every time someone asks the same question whispered over the cliffs for a century. What really happened here? Perhaps the truth was swallowed by the ocean long ago. Perhaps the lighthouse keepers know the answer, wherever they are. But one thing is certain. This place. We'll never forget them. Thank you for watching. If you want to explore more unsolved disappearances and dark historical mysteries, join us again. As we step deeper into the unknown.